My name is Manos Tsakiris. I'm Professor of Psychology at the Department of Psychology, Royal Holloway, University of London. I'm also the Director of the Centre for the Politics of Feelings, and I'm part of the iPad project as their scientific lead. iPad stands for Interdisciplinary Perspectives on the Politics of Adolescence and Democracy. It is a Marie Curie Doctoral Network funded by the European Union and the UK government, and it tries to train a new generation of researchers doing research at the fringes of political science, psychology, and neuroscience, trying to understand how young people develop a political self and start participating in politics. iPad deals with an important societal issue that is becoming quite pressing about the future of liberal democracies. We know that youth engagement with politics is quite important for the future of democracies, as today's adolescents and young people will become tomorrow's voters. At the same time, we observe that there is a decline in youth satisfaction with democracy. That seems to be happening across the world, but it's also quite prevalent in Europe. The problem is that if young people are not satisfied with democracy, then they may become apathetic, they may abstain from politics, or they may lead themselves into more radical types of political engagement. And I think either scenarios are quite risky for the future of liberal democracies. So what we're trying to do in iPad is trying to understand how this political self develops in adolescence, trying to understand how we can best support youth participation in politics, and understand a little bit how we can eventually help young people be more part of the future of liberal democracies. We have tried to bring together different disciplines because we believe that political science has a lot to offer in terms of understanding early stages of socialization and politicization. At the same time, neuroscience and psychology give us great insights about how the brain develops from the age of 10 all the way up to the age of 22 or 25 years old. We're trying to bring these two disciplines together for the very first time as a means of understanding how this political self develops in adolescence. There are a lot of preconceptions about how teenagers, for example, act and perceive the world. People think that adolescents and teenagers are more prone to risk-taking or sensation-seeking, or they're more subject to peer pressure. But is this true? Does this also apply to how they take political decisions? We simply don't know, and I think it is important to provide an answer from the different disciplines that are part of iPad to this important question. How do adolescents start processing political information? Can they actually take political decisions? I believe that yes. And can we empower them in participating in our democracies? iPad is first and foremost a training network. In other words, we're trying to train young generations of researchers. What is unique about iPad is that we try to bring different disciplines, such as political science, neuroscience, and psychology. And we do that across all the levels. So both are young researchers, they come from many different disciplines. We have people who studied psychology as the first degree, or political science, or even linguistics and communication. Some have studied neuroscience. And at the same time, the supervisory teams are multidisciplinary. We have political scientists, neuroscientists, psychologists in our teams. Now, the reason why we're doing that is the following. I think there's a widespread understanding across universities, but also across governments and the private sector, that the challenges that the modern world is facing cannot be answered by one discipline alone. In other words, we try to provide answers. We need to provide answers from many different perspectives. At the same time, the main ways we have to educate people, the classic university system, relies on specialization in one discipline. There's no new ways of thinking about how we can infuse these interdisciplinary skills in people's training. And with iPad, what we're actually trying to do is create this interdisciplinary space where our students will be equipped with these skills to try and make the connections, find the connections between disciplines from an early stage, become capable to use methods from different disciplines, and try to work together to answer these challenging questions that we are facing. So I think one of the important points here is the interdisciplinary focus. Another important aspect of the iPad is the broader network that we have formed, our collaborations with non-academic partners. We believe that it is important that our young researchers get the best possible training in science, in research, but at the same time they need to understand how their insights can be used outside of academia. And we're very fortunate and very privileged and happy to have partnered with 4 unique organizations: the Joint Research Centre, which are the main science advisors for the European Commission, the European Youth Parliament, the Gallup International, and Counterpoint UK, a political consultancy. These non-academic partners will be offering internships to our students. In other words, our students will have the opportunity to go, spend some time in these organizations, acquire different skills, from understanding how to fill a survey and analyze the data with Gallup International, all the way to how do you talk to policymakers and how you translate science insights into something that policymakers can understand. I think that we're trying to give this well-rounded training to our young researchers with the hope that when they graduate from the iPad network, they will go on and lead their own teams, either inside academia or outside academia, but having at the heart of the training this ethos of doing cross-disciplinary research, understanding each other's perspectives, and always have in mind how science insights can be translated outside academia.